Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here for today's daily medicine transmission. It is March 18th, 2021. Happy birthday to my little sister. And I will be passing on a reading to her today for her birthday. That's really exciting. I love dropping astrological insight to people who have no experience whatsoever, because it's usually very mind-blowing. So, welcome to Catalyst Energies. Today's daily transmission came through very strong. Fear is the mind killer. So I know the lighting is not ideal. I'm going to take some of my stimulus money and invest it in my business by getting an entire studio set up with a green screen and a ring light and a new microphone. But in the meantime, it is, the transition into the next season. It's always, you never know what to expect, at least where I'm at. So it was 60 degrees last week and sunny. It snowed 2 days ago, and now it's, the standard spring weather where it's about 45 degrees and it's raining and overcast. So the lighting is not good, but it doesn't matter really right this moment, because the most important thing is we're going to be looking at the imagery that I'm going to show you, the astrological chart, so we can really start to unpack this transmission about fear being the mind killer. So if you've never read the book Dune or any of the series or even seen the movie, there is a new movie, a new rendition of it that's coming out that's probably going to look really cool. The David Lynch version is like 4 hours long, and if you're into David Lynch, then you'll love it. And if you're not, then you'll be like, what is this nonsense? But fear is the mind killer. That came through very strong today, fear. And there are a lot of things to be concerned about, to be worried about, to be fearful about. There are things that are being triggered. And with all of this Pisces energy about to move into the new cycle, there is a lot of things coming to a head. There's a lot of settling of accounts, balancing things out, coming to terms with everything that has collected through the last year specifically. And it has been 2020 has been quite the year, and there has been a lot that is accumulated over the past year. And so a lot of that is being worked out through our the collective unconscious with Pisces, in our dream state. How are your dreams right now? Wow. And Mercury here in Pisces, for me personally, it's been running through a lot of old ancestral programs, much deeper fears and concerns that have been much more buried under the surface with all of this other, just life going on. We tend to sometimes push down or just not even acknowledge, or connecting to aspects from a past life, past experiences, maybe within our lineage, maybe within the collective in general, that comes through and manifests in the symbols and the archetypes in our dream state. And so how are your dreams? Mine have been pretty revealing and also very confusing. So also Mercury in Pisces, very confusing, especially when Mercury is about to meet Neptune during this cycle. I talked all about that in the astrological report. It is up on YouTube and BitChute. You can access BitChute from the link in the description box. You can just scroll down, and at the end of this video, it doesn't allow me when I do lives, so it takes about 24 hours for me to make any additions to this video, but there will be a link at the very end of this video in about 24 hours that will there'll be a link at the end of this video that will link you directly to the astrological report, because it takes us through this whole lunar cycle, which includes the equinox, includes Passover, includes Good Friday, and includes Easter. And it is significant. It is really, really powerful in terms of we're going to get a really clear vision of our own individual wounding, the shame and guilt about who we are and how we actualize ourselves, and the focus that we need, and the ability to be pulled off track really easily. And this is why I think that the transmission about fear being the mind killer came through so strong today as we are wrapping up this cycle, because we need to be very aware of what energy we're bringing into the next cycle, into the Aries season. There's a lot of fire, and there's a lot of air involved in this lunar cycle. and coming into this astrological new year. And so we want to be very clear with ourselves. We want to have our focus very specific on the whole picture. And something that came through today too was an alternative interpretation of Chiron, which I had talked about how easily we can get pulled off our attention by our wounding and having it triggered, and fear and what has been termed fear porn, I guess, is one of those ways that we can easily be triggered into our own wounding and pulling us out of that focused attention on the whole picture. The other aspect and this other interpretation of Chiron in Aries right now, especially because it's going to meet the Sun, meet Venus at the full moon on the 28th, all in Aries, opposite a moon in Libra, that just wants everything to feel balanced and aesthetically symmetrical and fair. Right? That is really what Libra is about, is the scales of justice. So that can be within us, and with the moon in Libra, it very well is going to be about an emotional balance and feeling. And we'll see that in today's transmission. The intuitive read as well is really showing us how important this is going to be. But another interpretation of this focused attention is with Chiron for this healing aspect is to see ourselves not in the victim / savior role, one or the other, or to identify with one or the other, but to see the progression as a whole picture, to see our wounding of ourselves, the wound, the shame, the victimhood that gets impressed upon us at a very young age. That is really what Chiron represents. It's something that we feel like we had no choice in the matter, yet we feel guilty about it, and shameful about it, because it's usually an early caregiver that, or past life. Sometimes that comes through too in the readings, that it is imposed upon us. But there's another way of interpreting it, rather than having those triggers and those wounds pulling us off our center, right? Eyes on the prize. We have to stay focused on the big picture here so that we know in every given moment how to enact and actualize our own dharma, right? You can also see your wounding and the patterns as a whole picture as well. And when you can do that, wow, you have so much power over those aspects, and you are not nearly as susceptible to the fear porn and the triggering of the amygdala and our emotional reactions. That is very much part of a lot of the messaging that is available to us in the mainstream, or even in alternative media, as I'm coming to understand, and many of us are. So it's not to say that you should not engage with these alternative streams of information, or even the mainstream. It's important to know what the messaging is, so that you are aware of what is being put out there. And it's all about steering the narrative, of course, even in those instances, even in those outlets that claim to be alternative. And it's not to say that they aren't, and then there are no good outlets for information, but at the end of the day, it's really about our own truth and our gut check that is going to make the biggest difference. And the best way to do that is to allow yourself to engage with this information without becoming personally involved. And that becomes really difficult when so many of these outlets of information, social media, are programmed, are built and programmed and built and executed in a way that is meant to trigger your emotional response. So again, this Chiron wound is going to come up really strongly. It's going to be unavoidable. It's going to be something we're very sensitive to, something that will shine very brightly for us at this full moon. And it will highlight that part of ourselves that we look to, that gives us a sense of balance. It gives us a sense of, I don't want to say direction, but it's this trinity within us that becomes characterized and symbolized by the three masters hanging on the wall. And everybody's will be different, but we want to make sure that what is the symbol of what we're working towards is actually what resonates with us. And one of the things I added to this post when I posted it with this video was that, what happens when what resonates with us is really just our confirmation bias. We really have to be real with ourselves about this. And so fear is the mind killer. If you're being pulled into fear, if you are being and equally into complacency because you feel like somebody else is going to take care of things for you, or that you don't, you're just kind of like, oh, that'll never happen. I mean, you could have said that about lots of things that have transpired this year, a year ago. So it's good to be realistic, of course, but not to feed the fear, not to feed the worry. Fear is the mind killer. You want to be sharp. Mars is in Gemini. You want to be sharp. You want to be able to take that arrow out of your quiver and be able to hit that bullseye through your own ego into a layer of your consciousness that is beyond that, right? And we have Mars to really support this right now, because if we are not in balance and we are fragmented, and I assure you that collectively that is still the case. We're all dealing with this, especially at the end of Pisces, because now it's really starting to differentiate. Everything that came through this cycle is now starting to consolidate and differentiate and turn back into a seed point that we are going to plant for growth. And if we are not in balance, if we are giving our power away, if it's fragmented and it's scattered, and we are allowing the fear to do what it's meant to do, which is all of these things, then we're going to bring that into the next cycle and activate that. And that is what is going to grow over the next year. So, let's look at the chart, shall we? Let's look at the chart and base this into some sort of cycle of reality here. So, where'd you go? All right. It's supposed to be here, but there he is. Okay. We are here. All right. So our moon is still in Taurus. As we see, it's going to move into Gemini today. So actually, let's show what's going on currently. Okay. So right here, 24 to 25 degrees of Taurus. So what has happened already today? Well, the moon was in a square to Jupiter. Jupiter at 21 degrees of Aquarius. This is a disillusioned and disappointed woman looks up courageously. This is about the, where did you go? There we go. This really is about the ability to develop resiliency under adversity. And Jupiter is expansive. Jupiter is benefic. Jupiter is very powerful and gives us a lot of good fortune and a lot of confidence. And this is about collective values. Jupiter is the defender of collective values. So he's really been expanding on this ability to courageously face what seems like an empty life. And if you, again, are getting caught up in the fear, and if you're getting caught up in the illusion of things and not really checking in with your gut and your sense of truth, then yeah, it can seem like a seemingly empty life. And there's a lot of disillusionment. So Jupiter is really supporting this process by expanding on our ability to do this as a leader. Each of us is a leader in our own way. Now, what's interesting is that this is also at the very same time that the moon was in square to this, it was in a conjunction with Black Moon Lilith. Now, think about Taurus for a minute. Taurus is the soil that the seed is planted in. It is the medium of our growth. It is the material reality, and the second house represents all that we have at our disposal that is ours as the individual. So your actual body, the material resources that you have that are yours, not necessarily what you share, that is Scorpio and the opposite of Taurus. This is what you have. So your genetics, your ancestral lineage, your resources, your inheritance, your assets. All of these, and these are energetic, these are financial, these are emotional and mental. All of these things that come with you that are part of the world that you utilize, and ultimately is the medium in which you grow within the soil. Now, the moon is exalted in Taurus. What does that mean? It means that, there's an astrologer who when this person has time, is able to tune in, and, he's on the other side of the world right now. So the schedule is all over the place. But in the event that he might be listening, who knows? One thing that he said to me that I really liked, he said that when a planet or the sun or the moon is exalted, it's like it's like a king, or especially with the sun, but royalty or a king or something like that in a foreign land. And so you still have this sense of prestige and this sense of power and confidence and authority, but it's not exactly at home. But the moon is exalted in Taurus. The moon wants to be contained, right? Our emotional vulnerability wants to be safe and wants to be held. This is why the moon is at home in Cancer, right? Cancer is protection, emotional protection of the family, the familial bonds. So much like that, the soil holds us, and it's in a different way, but the moon is exalted. So emotionally, we feel very secure and held and safe and comfortable when the moon is in Taurus, okay? Taurus is also about survival because it's about the actual material world and our assets and our resources. And so those are all wrapped up in survival. Black moon Lilith, you're not seeing it on this chart, is also at 21 degrees of Taurus. So when the moon met Black moon Lilith, it was in a square to Jupiter. Now, what is the degree of 21 degrees of Taurus? Well, it is, let me just read it. A finger pointing to a line in an open book. It's the idea that we are deciding what culturally is valuable to us and what is it that we can let go of. If it's like opening a book and randomly and just putting your finger down there and getting, the information from that seemingly random occurrence. So sometimes that's very synchronistic, I guess you would say. But it also represents, this particular degree represents that we are pointing out within the context of this whole narrative, we're pointing out what it is that is valuable to us. Now, with the moon meeting Black moon Lilith, which is our dark feminine, right? This is not necessarily about empowerment, but power over through our ability to attract and our ability to feel, right? We feel disempowered with Black moon Lilith, and so we act in a way that emotionally that attempts to overpower to compensate, right? That's what Black moon Lilith, in my reading, represents psychologically and energetically. And so when the moon is meeting this point here, this is where it comes into what resonates, right? Because that's really what that breaks down to. What resonates with us and what can we let go of? That concept that we're taught in the spiritual community. Take what resonates and get rid of the rest. This is what this degree is about. Well, are we doing it? So you have the moon meeting Black moon Lilith coming together. Are we actually taking what truly resonates with us and leaving the rest? Or are we taking what confirms our bias because of fear and in a square to Jupiter that is expanding upon this notion that we have resilience in the face of adversity, perhaps being shown that what we thought was true is actually not, and that our willingness to look for truth has been maybe manipulated perhaps in order to fill somebody else's coffers. This square here really has challenged us to, are we going to develop the resilience in the face of adversity? Are we going to allow in that disappointment? Remember that was on the Ides of March, that disappointment. Are we going to face that disappointment and stand up to it and have adversity when things are changing and we come to realizations? Because Aquarius, there's no secrets here. Everything is connected with Aquarius. The collective is connected by a power that moves through it, right? An energy that moves through it. That is really what Aquarius represents. This challenge here, especially with Lilith in the mix, and it's really powerful with the moon and Lilith together because we really do emotionally and intuitively feel, what we think resonates, but it's meeting Lilith. So we have to question. Is this confirming our bias so that we don't have to be disappointed and disillusioned? Well, I would say we should really question that in this square. And that square provided a tension that allowed us, if we leaned into how uncomfortable that was, we could learn quite a bit. Now, beyond that, at the very same time, the moon was in a sextile to Neptune and Pisces. So what it does at the same time, if we can really as well sink into the trust, to the hope, right? To God's plan, divine source's plan, to something so much bigger and beautiful and imaginative than just survival, right? If we were able to connect with that, that will allow us to make that determination, right? Neptune is very confusing. But Neptune is the ruler of Pisces. And so at the same time that it's confusing and full of propaganda, it gives us a chance to really see the hope for the future in a very tactile way. We're not using our mind with Neptune and Pisces. We're not using anything but our feeling and trust and surrender to the flow of source. So that is also a way, but that requires a gut check, right? You can't go into Pisces realm and not expect to just drown in everything unless you are able to master yourself. And that was what this new moon, again, was all about in terms of setting an intention for each of us, which is to realize who we are, what our limitations are, our restrictions, learn to grow from that, and realize our dharma amidst all of this unconscious energy that surrounds us, okay? We're starting to differentiate. Now, beyond that, we have, so there's all these sextiles with the sun, Venus, and this Taurus moon. And so there is support here as we move emotionally and intuitively through the realm of the medium that we're growing in the darkness of the soil, in the trust of the material world to provide what it needs, what we need emotionally and feeling based. When we connect these sextiles, right? These sextiles, 60-degree angles, they require our participation and some sort of investment in order to get the harmonious connection. With Venus in late Pisces, in a sextile to Pluto. So Pluto's in the mix as well today because Venus is in a sextile to Pluto. The harvest moon illuminates the autumn sky, right? The full consummation of everything in this cycle is going to be very palpable in our relationships, in our material world. Again, the moon is in Taurus, the territory that Venus rules. And so there is a sense in the material world and we want to protect it and we want to protect it. We want to feel safe. We're focused on survival. But Pluto is destroying everything in its path. And so again, if we can trust this process, if we can see everything that has culminated so far, and even though we're very sensitive to it, we can see that it's part of this process with the Pluto in this sextile in Capricorn, right? Just taking away all of the normal pathways, destroying the pathways up the mountain so we can develop new ones that more, directly link us to where we're going, because this is outdated and outmoded now, right? The old guard has to go down, and that's been happening since Pluto came into Capricorn in 2008. That was, there were some things happening in 2008 that directly connect to the fact that Pluto was coming into Capricorn, the Lord of Death coming into the realm of the old matrix and the old guard, the institutional aspect. So it's destroying it, but Venus is showing that that's part of the consummation. Everything that is happening right now is part of the harvest in some ways, the emotional harvest that allows us to create something new when we come into the Aries point of the cycle, which is the equinox. And then of course the sun is coming into the last degrees of Pisces, really getting to the point now where we're differentiating a light through a prism, right? Light, visible light is all the same, but when it's refracted, right, differentiated into its different wavelengths, then we see color. Color is just a representation of the different wavelengths of visible light that we usually don't see until it's separated by a prism of some sort. Water is an amazing prism, by the way. That's very interesting, isn't it? So, and the moon will be trine to, the moon will be trine to Pluto at the same time that Venus is in this sextile. So it's all connected together. And what is it? Peaceful adaptation. Are we able to peacefully adapt to the collective needs on an emotional level? Are we able to adjust to the vital needs of the whole that we see ourselves as a part of? When we make this connection to Venus about the consummation, and we make this connection very structurally connected to Pluto that is destroying everything else, we're giving of ourselves and to the whole because we understand our part in it. Okay, so we get this opportunity today to really look at what we've been holding on to, decide whether or not it really resonates or it's just confirming an old bias. And then from there, we get to let it all go and adjust ourselves emotionally to everything that is falling away because it's part of the consummation that allows the next cycle to move forward. And then, of course, we have the moon is going to sextile the sun at the very end of the day before moving into Gemini. There's understanding. It's impossible to fully understand anything except when its opposite is taken into consideration, right? That is actual understanding. That is the Sagittarian energy, of course, but at the very end of Taurus, it is a very material realization and start setting the stage for us to come into the Gemini archetype. And so this sextile to the sun that has a strong imagery of that prism, right? Of something that is truly unified, right? Which is light in our estimation and our ability to see it, right? Visible light is just a tiny portion of the electromagnetic spectrum. But even that differentiates into a different frequencies, different wavelengths of light, different colors, right? It's different and has a different frequency attached to it, but it's all part of the same light, just like light travels in waves, but it also travels in particles as photons. There's really no singular unification except merging back with source. That's it. Everything else is a differentiation and a separation from that one point. And if we can understand that, whoa, boy, if we can understand that, that is really where we're gonna really blast forward, right? That's going to be a quantum leap in our intuitive understanding today as the moon goes into Gemini, because over the weekend with the equinox, the moon in Gemini is going to meet Mars and it's going to be the North Node. Man, wow, we're really going to connect very personally and emotionally to this activation in our minds, in our information, and information communication. And with Mars and the North Node here, it is very, there's a lot of desire here. There's a lot of movement forward, right? The head of the dragon is very focused on its trajectory. Mars is about penetration and cardinal fire, moving forward. So we're each going to emotionally connect to this fire over the weekend. It's really important before coming into this place that we really understand who we are, what is actually necessary for our survival, and be able to adapt to the collective need while letting go of the things that need to be let go of. It's incredible. So the reading for today, though, is really about how, from what I can tell, right, it comes through fear is the mind killer, and it shows us what to expect if we do not heed the potential that the astrology maps out for us, right? All of these connections that the planets and the luminaries make, they provide an energetic wave that we can align with and resonate with if we choose to. And we'll do it anyway. So it depends on how we want to do it that will make the impact as we move forward. This reading is not only a reflection of how collectively we're still struggling against ourselves, but it also shows what to expect if we do not if we allow our energy to continue to stay scattered, if we come at this new seed with the spring equinox unbalanced, right? The contrast within us unbalanced. we are going to feel a lot of loss and defeat in the realm of the mind, and especially with the moon coming into Gemini, this can really activate some mental trajectories and communications that are really not helpful and very, how do I say this? Just really aggressive, I guess, with Mars there as well, right? We think that we're getting to our ego, but maybe really we're just using our mental capacity to disarm somebody else in order to fulfill our ego, right? Rather than actually using Jupiter and Saturn, for that matter, to really deal with what's in front of us and to evolve as a result of taking the step back, going into silence in order to get that inspiration, and also to have the confidence and the ability to, and the authority, right? Jupiter is an authority. It is a leader. Have the ability to face up courageously to our own disappointment, because that's, that's part of the process. All right, so let's look at this reading here. So across the board, horizontally, in this third dimensional axis of cause and effect, it's all reversed, right? So there is a lot of, there's just a lot here that we are still working with, and that is still not fully realized or is inappropriately being expressed. Now, we do see at the top of here, there's that Seven of Forces that was coming out as guidance yesterday. Now it's at the very top of our awareness, and the Queen of Roses right there again, right? About balance, finding balance within ourselves. The Tortoise, right? Slow and steady wins the race. The lunar new year is the metal ox, determination, slow, methodical. It is hard work, and you have to balance your energy in order to have the stamina to make it all the way through. So this is about fragmentation. Again, the One of Forces reversed. Our energy is split and fragmented. This is the root of our energetic polarity here. And with all of this, it leads to a sense of loss and failure that we don't learn from. The Five of Swords already came out once, and now it's reversed. So we had the potential to really see things for what they were, even though it hurt. This is showing that without getting ourselves balanced internally, we're not going to learn from that situation necessarily, and just feel the loss. So let's look at things one step at a time here. The Knight of Cups reversed, okay? The Knight of Cups is kind of like the Queen of Wands. It's the Knight of the fire, and the cups is water. And if you look at this card, even though it's reversed, you see that there are wings on this knight. There is a sense of flight. There is a sense of movement. He's got the chalice. He's got the crab, okay? Very Cancerian. This is, and the moon. And there's just this sense of, purity here, and very emotional and artistic, and it's an offering, right? Let me take my energy, my warrior nature, and make this offering of emotional safety and security and love, right? And so what does, ring reversed, this is, again, a fragmented energy, contrasts not really balanced out very much at all. And so let's look at the notes here. Okay. First of all, Aquarius into Pisces. Well, we know that Mercury just made this transition, and there will be others that make this transition throughout the year. Jupiter and Saturn specifically. Pallas Athena just made this transition. Actually, Mercury and Pallas Athena are conjunct today at 4 degrees of Pisces. This is the narrow isthmus between two very busy places. There is a very narrow pathway that we must travel in order to get anything done. Otherwise, we get sucked into, what's an isthmus? It's this narrow band of land between two land masses with the ocean on either side, right? Again, we can easily, we got to stay focused, and it can get jammed up as well. But our mind and the strategy here is to be able to function and move within this band and keep it moving and not, get caught up in the traffic jam. So the Knight of Cups reversed it brings the contrast into balance. And this individual, either us or other people, it's about, there's a lot of healing and emotional warmth and tenderness to this. This is a very balanced, the fire and water energy is very balanced. But when it is reversed, there are emotions that arise that are very overwhelming, right? We can't, the fire just kind of like, and then it burns out really quickly. And then the worst aspect of this is false and fake, right? It is the knight saying, hey, look what I have. But when it's reversed like that, there's nothing in that cup. It's fake. It's a farce. And there's vanity, there's artificiality. This is the energy coming into the moment that we have been offered something by someone, or even ourselves, but we are being offered something. We had been offered something by someone that we thought was offering us this healing and this warmth and emotionality. And in fact, we realize coming into the moment, or maybe not. That's the thing. If we haven't realized it coming into the moment, it's an illusion. It's not in the fullness of what these two, the contrast and the opposition of fire and water can really create, right? It's false. It's illusionary. And it also does represent quickly rising emotions that are overwhelming, right? It's just like being overwhelmed by our emotions as well, if we identify with this. But this is something that is not based in true emotional and true warrior nature. It's false. It's a falsehood. All right. So if we have this coming into the moment, and here's the Ace of Wands reversed. Okay. So we know that the equinox is coming. So here is the equinox, the Ace of Wands, also reversed. We're having a hard time controlling this, right? And we can burn out suddenly, and use up all our resources right away, if we don't learn to activate this and use our dominion, right? The Two of Wands, that is Mars in Aries, that Two of Wands. If we don't learn to utilize this properly, we'll just burn ourselves out. There's also destruction, because this is exaggerated. A false start, that's a big one, especially if you have a lot of false, that night bringing that fire, using the fire to bring in this emotionality is being really false and not true. And you come into this moment, again, a false start. It's not going to actually, it's going to be a seed that never comes to germination, right? Or canceling. This is the potential benefit here, is you cancel out what you were about to start based on the fact that you realize that there is an illusory offering here. That cup is empty. It's fake. There's a hologram in there, right? It's not real. And so coming into this moment, we might cancel within ourselves, or we double down and it becomes destructive, or it's a false start. Either way, if we come into this moment of the equinox with this illusory false start energy, then we're not going to be able to activate this Ace of Wands, which is supposed to be a very powerful transformational beginning of a cycle. It's going to be distorted in some way. So we do know and see, and in our conscious awareness, the Seven of Forces, the balance here. It's not just about legal balance. And of course, that's a big part of it. You can see the scales of justice. You can see the contracts and the papers. You're in an office. You see the wheel that is actually the back of the chair there. And it's kind of got a Pisces thing going on, which I think is really interesting. It's about inner balance, but this is at the top of our awareness. We need to get balanced within ourselves, our thoughts. And when we talk about the forces, this is the fire energy, the transformational creative energy. We have to get this energy balanced within us, right? And it's time. It's time to get balanced. It's at hand right now. Be patient, pay attention to the details, realize this is about inner balance, and realize that energy is about reciprocity. If it's not reciprocal, like actually reciprocal, you'll know, because you'll be drained, or you'll be caught up in the fear. or you'll be resentful. That's another one. You'll know if you're getting resentful, you know that there's something off about the reciprocity between you and something else energetically, right? And Libra is the 7th house. This is about the beginning of our shared experiences with each other. And so this is, we know that it's time to get balanced now. Okay. This is at the top of our awareness. Now, what we're not seeing, even though we do realize the need to get balanced, and maybe that's the balance we're seeing is in a legal sense or in contracts, or in our ability to create things. We do see the need to be balanced, but what is rooting us energetically, the one of forces, the Akashic field, it's depleted, it's scattered, it's fragmented and agitated. Okay. There's worry and panic. Again, fear is the mind killer. And when you have the Akashic field, in a situation like that where it is fragmented, then you can't actually use your mind to manifest something whole for yourself. You can't align with the highest potential of who you are and who we all are. And worry and panic and fear splits this up, right? You're like a radio station tuned to the wrong frequency when it's like this. You're just taking, and then Pisces, oh my Lord, right? With all this Pisces energy, you really are just taking in every signal because you haven't learned to, swim in the ocean or stay, focus on the island. That is that new moon there, focusing on your role on the island. You're getting all caught up in everything else and taking in all these signals, and you're fragmented because you don't know which way is up or down. And the field is filled with potential solutions. There is nothing that we can't do. And so we do need a new perspective, but this fragmentation is really energetically rooting us, even though we do see the need to balance ourselves, and something may come in order to force that into our awareness as well. And because here's the 5 of Swords, it's hard to see, but this is reversed, right? This is reversed. And so the defeat that is the 5 of Swords is still there, but it's failure and fear. Like we don't learn anything. We're not we're sensitive to the sharp pain of the swords, but we're not learning anything from it. It's just loss and defeat and feeling crappy about it and failure and not learning anything from it. So again, we have to be real with what is being presented to us by actual people or ourselves. We have to realize that it will impact the seed that we plant into this new cycle. And if we do not get our energy unfragmented, if we do not connect to the Akashic field and that stream of consciousness that Pisces represents, then this is what to expect. And I feel a lot of people are still going to be in this situation. Everybody wakes up at their own time. Everybody comes to, it's a consistent cycle. It's like a spiral, right? Like you still come back around to the same location in space and time, but at the same time, it's in a different location in space and time. And so it's themes that come back around. And so we all are dealing with this, and we're all coming back around to something. But I do suspect, based on this, that many people do not come to terms with some of these things, that this is what to expect, the fear and the failure and the defeat and the loss, without actually learning anything from it. So what can we do? What can we do? Because this is about solutions, not telling you what's going to happen. Number 1, the Queen of Roses. Again, this is about love, self-love, loving other people, being compassionate, all the Pisces stuff, especially Venus in Pisces. Love, compassion, forgiveness, beautiful imagination, inspiration, really just taking care of ourselves, taking care of other people, really embodying love in a very material way that appeals to our senses and our relationships, okay? This is how we get balanced. We know that there is a need to be balanced. So part of this is coming more into this. We're still, there's a lot of air and fire that's about to happen. So we really do need to connect directly to this so that we know what it feels like when we come into a time of a lot of air and fire, right? We need to still be very emotionally mature, right? We have to be able to connect emotionally in a way that is not a trigger. We're not being triggered. We are choosing, right? And beyond that, the tortoise. we're too fragmented. So do whatever it takes to get grounded, right? It really speaks for itself. And this is where we get longevity, right? This is a marathon, not a sprint, as they say on X22 report. I think we can all kind of get down with that. Determination, longevity, adaptability, right? Patience, being methodical. Again, the metal ox. The Lunar New Year for 2021, the metal ox, methodical, patient, adaptable. This is the long game, right? We can't just blow, again, that false start of the Ace of Wands or just burning it all down and running out of fuel already because we're just so like, oh, I have so much to offer, right? Or somebody else is like, I have so much to offer. And then it all gets burnt out. Perseverance, stability, all of these things come with this. And so when we can connect to this, we can get grounded, then we can get balanced. And if we can connect to the emotional aspect, the Venus in Pisces before she moves into Aries, it's really important because when she's in Aries, she kind of doesn't care. At that point, she wants what she wants and she will pull it towards her with a fierceness and a hunger that is not the Queen of Roses. So right now, we definitely need to continue to foster the relationship with Venus and Pisces until it's not an option anymore. And when it comes to the Akashic field, number one, let's start here. The Six of Forces reversed, right? The waterfall, when it's reversed, again, we're feeling a significant loss of power and emotionally reactive, okay? Now, where is that coming from? Again, I just talked about this. The fear porn, the aspects of the social and mainstream media and all of the signals coming to us that have something to gain by triggering that amygdala, emotionally reactive. Maybe our life is turned upside down right now. This is, again, splitting our energy, right? Fragmenting our energy, agitating our energy in the Akashic field. We're giving our power away to that Knight of Cups who is not really being very upfront with us and is more vain than anything else. And we're following someone else's agenda. Oh my gosh, we are giving up our power and giving away to somebody else that really doesn't even fully care about what is best for us. It's more about what's best for them, right? And we may have completely given up. There is so much demoralization that's happening, and the other side of that is people completely just following the Pied Piper, right? Rise up and take your power back. This is what this is representing. You've got to take your power back. And when you understand your true value, then you'll know that you deserve to carve out your own destiny. Nobody else is responsible for that except for you and me individually, right? Rise up and take your power back. That's what when it's reversed like this, it is saying that we do not feel empowered. And the Six of Forces, and then comes the Seven, right, where the balance. And so we know we need balance. We're aware of this. This is where institutional power is going to come from. But we have to realize that we're giving our power away. We're not actually utilizing it for our own good. And so beyond that, we can look at the Tiger. It says you're being called upon to provide leadership, right? So be a leader in this way. Be a good example. And a good leader knows when to hold them and knows when to fold them, right? This is about knowing when to act and knowing when to sit back and observe. So there's confidence, but there's intuition. There's agility and loyalty, and devotion, but there's also patience, right? There is mysticism and power and gracefulness, but there's also stealth, right? And focus. These two things, there's so much about bringing our aspects together. And the North Node in Gemini really is about how do we bridge the gap in order to communicate. So it does represent telepathy, but when you bring those sides together within yourself, then you're really able to communicate with your higher self. And that also has to do with the moon in a sextile to the sun today. When we can understand both sides of ourselves, if we can actually ground ourselves and become whole within ourselves, then we take our power back. Then we're able to be a true leader within ourselves, and then we can set an example. So there's a lot of incredible guidance today to help us in this process. But we have to be aware of it, so when we come into this spring equinox, we are activating this whole yearly cycle very consciously, very intentionally, and from a place of balance and not a place of fragmentation and agitation. And I assure you that the more we are agitated and fragmented energetically, the more we can be overpowered and manipulated. And so you have to be mindful who is putting information out there that is encouraging you to be afraid, or encouraging you to be completely complacent and waiting for somebody else to come in and do something, because neither of those situations are about being empowered. Okay, so guys, that's the transmission for today. Wow. Thank you so much for being here. I'm gonna leave this little tiger up here. It's not really little. If you're interested in a reading, understanding your starseed lineage, another hijacked archetypal concept. Don't even get me started on that. And you, or energetic support through Reiki or shamanic energy work, you can go to catalystenergies.net, and then you can book a service right through the website. This weekend, Redream the World in the Age of Aquarius, free astrology retreat. I will post the link and the schedule again on my Facebook and Telegram, so you can link to those from the description box as well. It's a free astro retreat. There is an entire weekend of presenters and astrologers. I am presenting on Sunday about the role of the starseed in the Age of Aquarius. So you can, you register and you get to watch it either on their YouTube channel or on the private Facebook page. And like I said, it's free. I will be offering actually, for those who register and participate, one of the offerings that I'm offering a 15-minute like free starseed demo reading for people who are registered. So it's just a really quick rundown of and I do a demo of it in the presentation, just a rundown of your astrological, the astrological markings that align with your starseed lineage, and we talk a little bit about that just to give you a sense of what that really entails. And also, if you're on BitChute or YouTube, definitely subscribe to the channel, definitely hit the like button, interact through the comments. That really helps influence the algorithm for independent content creators like myself who are not monetized but want to make offerings and get this information out there to people. The more you interact with the channel and in the comments and hit the like button, the more the algorithm sees that this is valuable and will push it out to more people as suggestions. So if you find this helpful, other people will probably find it helpful as well. So thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate it. You guys have a great day. I will be back tomorrow for the daily medicine, and then the weekend for the spring equinox. It's really exciting time, very exciting, and it does require that we are fully in our light and we are fully in our truth. And don't be afraid to make changes, to face some uncomfortable things, because that's how we grow, right? And if you can do that and you can find some balance amongst the contrast within us, we can really be an example of leadership moving forward. Because I think people are really almost desperate at this point for some measure of example of how to move forward. And the starseeds and the indigos and the truth tellers are in a position to do this, but you have to be making sure that it's your truth that you're sharing and not regurgitating someone else's, because we all have a different lens that we're seeing things through, and we have to be honest with ourselves about it. So take care of yourself, guys. I will see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye.